why don't we talk about Kail Lowry, Elijah Scott, and what's going on with them right now? Kail is currently mixing people up and trying to confuse us on whether or not she's with this man, okay? Whatever. Who cares? We've already discussed it ad nauseum. However, the U.S. Sun, they got some of their paparazzi people to follow Elijah, and they found pictures of him pumping up his car with gas, picking up McDonald's, and heading to Kail's house. So he was there for the entire weekend, taking care of the children while she was in New York over the weekend. So maybe, they've got some kind of agreement going on right now. I don't know the extent of it, but it seems as though he still is, at the very least, interested in continuing to be an engaged parent. The article doesn't specify whether it was just the Scott children, the Lowry Scott children that were there, or if her other children were there as well. But I would like to imagine that Mr. Rivera was at home with his father. Maybe Marroquin was with his father as well. Maybe what are the other last names we have in that household? What is Lux's last name? What is Chris's last name? I can't keep up. What is Chris's Lopez? I think Lux. What are these children's last names, right? There's a Rivera in there. There's a Marroquin in there. And then I know that the two siblings from Chris have two different last names. One of them is Lopez, right? And the other one is Lowry Lopez or something like that. And then I think her children with Elijah have her last name as well. Right? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this right, y'all? That's their last. I can't keep up. I'm sorry. Hamlet says Kail needs a life coach that can help her figure her ish out. You know what? I actually think that would be amazing for her too. She's done therapy for so long. So, and this is something we've been discussing on the channel or the morning report for a while now, but perhaps it's time for a life coach or something else, something different to step in. So, no, but the thing with thank you. So Chris's last name is Lopez, but the children, one of them's last name is Lopez, right? And the other one is Lowry Lopez or Lopez Lowry or something like that. I cannot keep up, y'all. I can't. There it is. Thank you, Courtney. One is Lopez, the other is Lopez Lowry. So I believe it is Creed that is Lopez Lowry because Kail wanted to go and change his last name. She originally gave him Lopez. Then she said, me and your daddy aren't working out anymore. Let's take it away. Let's put Lowry. And the judge said, I am sick of you. Nope, you tried this with the other one. We're going to hyphenate it and call it a day. Leave me alone. And then just like Carl in the Chaos is saying, Isaac she started planting that into Isaac's head because her mom's last name, Boozy Susie's last name is Irwin. And then Kail all of a sudden is enamored by this last name. She's suddenly like, why do women give men the right to pass on their last name? And these men have nothing to do with the children. She's talking about how her last name, Lowry, is her father's last name. And she only met him once as an adult, right? And so she wants to have her last name be Irwin, but it's too late because of the branding that she has as Kail Lowry. Then she started putting that seed in Isaac's head. And, that actually did cause some issues with Joe Rivera as well, because he's like, what are you even talking about, dude? No one in your family has a last name Irwin. In your household of all the kids with all the last names going on. I'm here in his life, why would you do that? It's just so weird. That's not even your last name. Oh my God, a mess. Bless that girl because it's such a headache to think about. So there you go. Like Ashanemi says, there's Rivera, Marroquin, Lopez Lowry, and Scott. But I could have sworn she said that she was giving the kids with Elijah her own last name. Anyway, listen, it gives me a headache trying to figure out her baby daddy situation. So I will just leave it there. It's nice to see that Elijah still is involved with the children because, sometimes it does happen that way where if the man is not involved with you, he doesn't care about the kids that he shares with you, even if they are his biologically, right? So good on him for continuing to step up. However, there is something that I did want to share with you. So again, it's about the podcast episode that Kail and Becky put out today on Karma and Chaos. So let me go ahead and actually pull it up because there was a moment there where I was like, Becky, do you like this girl? Because the way you're talking to her, it sounds like a little bit like, I don't know. So basically the backstory goes as follows. Becky, she had stayed at Kail's house for about 4 days. Apparently on the podcast, she said that her wife was there with her too, but I don't know. So she stayed at Kail's house to help her out when Kail kicked Elijah out of the house, right? And now she's saying, Kail, why do you pretend to care about your friends? I will let her tell you on her own, y'all, because when she said it, I was like, oh, damn, those are fighting words. It feels like she was sort of discarded after Kail didn't need her anymore, helping her in the household with the children. So go ahead, take a listen to this. And all of y'all in my live chat, please feel free to continue to leave your comments on the side. I will be posting them on the screen, okay?
With you as if we should get it done too for our own well-being.
We absolutely should all be getting
But then you just wanted our support with you. You actually didn't care about us.
I do care because without you guys, I'm nothing.
Shut the fuck up. That was so disingenuous.
But it's not.
Okay.
You literally moved in for 4 days. How could you think that? How could you think that?
And then she kicked me out and I hadn't heard from her. I didn't hear from Kail. I left that house and then I didn't hear from her. And she ignored my calls for a week.
That is not true.
It is true. You literally ignored my calls for a week. I don't care.
I do.
Why?
Purposeful. I texted you and said I love you.
Yeah, I don't care.
Oh.
I'm just ragging on you.
Okay.
That you did ignore my calls.
But I did accidentally FaceTime you while I was in the shower and I was like, oh.
Awkward. Why do you pretend that you care about your friends? I moved into your house, you kicked me out, and you ignored my calls for a week. And Kail, she was just like trying to figure out how to navigate this. Listen, in Kail's defense, and I feel like she should have just said this, she was going through a very hard time, right? Like she's just finding out on social media that the man she thought was the most faithful man on the planet, the most trustworthy man on the planet, was cheating on her on a trip that she planned, right? And like, it's great that Becky moved in there to help her. But when she left, because of course she had to go back home to her pregnant wife, Kail is now at home managing 7 children, 4 baby daddies, you know, all the work that she's got to do, all the books that she's got to read. Like she could have just said that she was overwhelmed with emotion, with responsibility, all these different things. So the fact that there was dead air over that and Becky brought it up 2-3 times, I was like, and then there were other moments in the podcast as well where Becky just keeps on calling Kail out. Like there's a thing about how Becky believes in ghosts and then Kail doesn't, and Becky believes in mediums and Kail doesn't. And then Becky wants to share the story and then Kail's like, yeah, but I don't believe in this stuff. And Becky's like, okay, so then don't. And she shares the story. I said, girls, the girls are fighting. What is happening? I laugh at that every time too. These two, and again, you know, their vocabulary leaves a lot to be desired. There are very many moments like this when you listen to their podcast. Pretty much every single episode is like that, you know. And I feel like in Kail's case, where she's someone claiming to read like a novel a day, 30 novels a month, you're like, really? And this is how limited your vocab is? All right. Raina says, Kail's addicted to the drama of being miserable. It really does feel that way. Listen, we call her Petty Betty for a reason. And I used to think it was mainly just like a baby daddy thing, but seeing how she navigates her friendships as well, like, I think she needs to step it up a bit more. But her typical excuse for why she's not able to really show up as a good friend for people, and I do think it's somewhat reasonable, is that she's got many kids and many men, you know, fathers of these children to be navigating, in addition to trying to keep her own head above water, right? So I get it and stuff, but it really felt like Becky dropped everything to be there for her. Like, isn't Becky in New Jersey and then she went to Delaware and everything? Like, so that was kind of awkward to hear, you know? Damn. Kristen says that she loves it and Kail needs someone to call her out. I agree, right? I agree. And I didn't catch this part about accidentally failed during the FaceTime during the shower. I heard it, but it didn't click until I just saw what you said, Carl, in the chaos. She keeps on kind of like sprinkling some what is it? She's kind of like a low-key agent of chaos, right? Because at the top of this episode, they talk about how so many people are under the impression that the two of them are flirting. People feel like Becky isn't being respectful of her wife. And Becky tells us to back off. Now you've got Kail talking about how she accidentally FaceTimed Becky in the shower. What happens in the shower, y'all? You're typically nude. Very, very interesting. Lex says the woman was too stunned to speak, period. Oof. They said they had like I don't know who they have here. I think maybe it was like, what's the name of that girl? Oh, by the way, that girl, she was friends with V. Do you know she's brunette? She had a podcast with V, vibing and kind of thriving. Alessandra. She's one of the people that were there for the taping of this. Listen, is V still friends with Alessandra, by the way? Because the way that Alessandra has navigated this, the disloyalty of it all. Because it is true that she was always working for Kail in the background, right? And I think it's okay that she continues to work for Kail, but it wasn't until Kail's falling out with V, and then the way she publicly dragged V, it wasn't until then that she started to bring Alessandra to the forefront. And Alessandra has been eating it up. Listen, the way my loyalty is set up, I don't know that I would be able to do that after someone called my friend who's been in, her stepson's life for like the entirety of his life, save for a couple of months. If someone said that she's a deadbeat, she's a user, she's this, she's that, after all she suffered, I would not be riding hard for that girl at all. Now, Courtney says, V and Alessandra did a whole episode. V isn't upset about Alessandra. Yeah, and I wonder, because I think at the time it was still, she's just working for Kail, which I too think is okay, unless V can offer her a job, right? Continue to work for Kail. But these days, she is very, very much in the foreground, filming these videos for Kail, like the birthday tributes, this, that, and the other. It's giving opportunist a little bit. Bree says, I saw Alessandra and was so disappointed in her, period, right? Oh, Lord. Sad. Ramster says, I always accidentally FaceTime people from the shower. It's a thing. Me too. Oh my God. Kail. Listen, if I'm not happy and if my relationship's falling apart, your relationship has to fall apart and you're going to be unhappy with me. I'm not doing this alone, right? Kristen says, definitely weird for her to latch to Kail so quickly after what went down, right? I don't know. Weird vibes. Sorry. Very weird vibes. Now, you guys, why don't we get into the Jenelle story? Because per usual, it's dramatic, or should I say dramastic? So let me go ahead and pull it up in another tab, by the way, because I want to play the audio for you guys. Shout out to the Ashley's Reality Roundup, because she got the exclusive copy of this 911 call that Jenelle had made to report her son Jace for allegedly smashing things in and around her house. This is not the first time that Jenelle has called 911 on her son. Listen, and I'm not saying this to be, derogatory towards Jace or anything like that, but this is exactly what we all were afraid of, right? When we saw Jenelle on that show, pregnant, we all said, oh, Lord have mercy. God bless this child, because this child is going to have a hard time standing any kind of a chance with her. Right. And then she gives birth to the child. We see how she is and how, uninterested she is in parenting, all the yelling, all of the drugs, all of the fighting. I still remember her and her mother screaming in this child's ear as she's holding her. Like the amount of chaos that child had been exposed to from a very, very, from birth, right? Even pre-birth. Wasn't she over there doing rugs while pregnant with him, allegedly? This stuff is not surprising. And this is why it's so, so important to make sure that you and whoever you are having a child with are in a good and healthy place, because this affects the possibilities that your child has for having a successful life. Unfortunately for Jace, I think that all hope of him having a successful life has been kind of almost destroyed by Jenelle. And I really, truly hate that for him. He was such a beautiful child. I always thought he was the most gorgeous child on Teen Mom too. He was the cutest little baby. He was a sweet baby. He was so in love with her. He always wanted to hug her. He always wanted to be held by her. And she just would always just be leaving him, running off and everything as he cries at the front door. All of that adds up, and all of that can lead to things like this. Not only that, but when you also throw in all of the random boyfriends, including one, who turned into a husband and who allegedly strangled him, and then you went online to blame your child for that and to support your husband and say that your husband did that because he needed to protect the family from your child, it's not surprising. It really isn't. So take a listen to the audio 911 call. Once again, this is coming from the Ashley's Reality Roundup.
Saturday, April 12.
So can y'all hear that? Let me know in the chat, because sometimes I'm thinking y'all are hearing something. And meanwhile, we're just sitting here staring at each other. So please do let me know. Let me go ahead and play it.
2025, 15, 41 and 31 seconds.
911 emergency, Cribs 15955. Do you need police, fire, medical?
Yes.
Do you need police or medical?
Huh?
Police or medical?
Police.
What address do you need police to?
6th Street.
What do you need police for?
My son is smashing everything in the house, and he's smashing everything in the house.
Okay.
I need a police officer to come here.
Okay. Is anybody injured?
No, but there's debris of broken door everywhere. He picked up the cage, the dog cage, and fucking threw it. Sorry for my language.
Did he throw it at you or at the door?
No, he threw it down the steps.
Okay. All right. And what's his name? I've already got a call for them. What's his name?
Jace Evans.
Jace?
Yes.
And what's his date of birth?
08/02/2009.
And I'm just going to get his description. Is he white, black, Hispanic, or Asian?
White.
And how old is he?
15.
15. And how tall?
Huh?
How tall?
Like 5'2".
Is he thin, medium, or heavy build?
Athletic.
And what color clothing does he have on?
Right now he's wearing a purple hoodie.
And what color pants?
I'm not sure. And he just tried to leave the house.
Okay. Any drugs or alcohol involved?
No.
Okay. Any weapons?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Is he diagnosed bipolar, schizophrenia, anything like that?
ADHD and defiant disorder?
Okay. Does he take medication for that?
No.
Defiant disorder?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any cameras at the house?
Yes. But currently they're just outside.
Okay. And what is your name?
Say again, sorry.
That's right. Your name?
Jenelle Easton.
Can you spell your first name for me?
JENELLE. Last name EASON.
That's phone number for you? All right. If he tries to leave at this point, I don't want you to get injured. So just let us know if he leaves the house. We've got his description so we can look for him, okay? We've got
All
the
right,
call
thank
set
you.
up. If anything escalates before we get there, call us back on 911.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
So there you go. That was the 911 call that Jenelle had placed against her son, Jace. And I did see quite a few of you guys' comments about how Jenelle was with Tori all weekend, which is very interesting because it's not even like she and Tori were in North Carolina, right, where she lives all weekend. In fact, they were in Arizona, were they not? So did one of the children kind of alert her to this? Was Jace supposed to be in charge of Kaiser and Ensley? I am kind of curious about what really was happening here and how she was aware of this. And I'm also kind of curious, like, was there a babysitter or something like that? Because Jace is 16 years old, which, you know, it's kind of young to be looking over children for like a weekend or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I did also see some of you guys' comments, like this one that Hamlet's Princess left. talking about posts that Jace made on Instagram. I don't follow any of the children on Instagram, so I have no clue what he's posted there. Hamlet, Courtney, anybody else who saw them? What did he post? Because now I'm kind of nervous to know. And good morning, Acacia. So nice to see you. And Caroline, I thought the same thing too. When she said that he was 5'2", I said, no, girl, you're 5'2". Maybe she thought that the operator was asking about herself and not about Jace's height, because I'm pretty sure that he is probably at the very least like 5'7" or 5'8". And I'm laughing because of Cindy's comments. Cindy says athletic because she only knows Tinder descriptions. You know, when I figure out how to put some people on timeout, go sit in the corner. You are crazy. Acacia says, so sad, but product of his environment. Poor kid never had a chance with her as a mother. I agree. And it's really, really so unfortunate. Because I think that, you know, obviously every child should be given the best environment or opportunity to succeed. So when you see people like Jenelle do this to not one, not two, not just two, but 3 children, oh my God. Because yeah, for now it's Jace, but I wouldn't be surprised if all of her children were to have these kinds of issues, right? And I saw someone else leave a comment about like Barbara, and listen, this is what I've always said about Barbara too. Listen, she's 0 for 3 in her children. So I do think that there's something to be said for that. I think that Barbara probably should have been child-free, just like Jenelle should have been child-free. It's very, very, very heartbreaking and disappointing to see. And so now Courtney has an update about, or in Hamlet as well, about what Jace was posting. Apparently he posted on Instagram that he needs someone to save him. Courtney says he's posting about being seriously depressed. Oh no, and his mom not believing him. My heart breaks for this child, really. He deserved so much better. So much better. So this is how your child is feeling. Apparently you don't believe him. And not only that, but instead of trying to figure out how you can help him, you're out on vacation in Arizona with your on and off again friend, posting, you know, nude content on the internet or whatever. Like, that's really sad. I forgot that she doesn't even live in the Carolinas anymore. She lives in Vegas. That's really, really sad. So I guess, you know, maybe when they went to Arizona, it was a little bit of a day trip or something like that. Then she went back to Vegas or something. Oh my God, poor Jace. I've always felt so devastated for him. He was such a beautiful child and he deserved so much better. I don't remember this sort of drama happening to him when he was living with Barbara, right? I hate that she ultimately caved and handed over custody to Jenelle. This is just too much for Jace, really, way too much. Carl in the Chaos says, did you notice she said he was 15 and didn't know what he's wearing? How? WTF, right? She's so checked out, it's insane. Cammy says, if anyone should have been adopted as a baby, it's Jace. I agree. Can you imagine if Jace went to his own Brandon and Teresa-like family, what kind of a life he'd be living now? I wouldn't be surprised if he were a scholar now, right? But you have to remember that he's still fighting against the genetics that that Jenelle, you know, and her family have, right? And Jenelle especially, because Jenelle, what has she done? Wasn't she like allegedly smoking weed when she was pregnant with all of these children and whatnot? Maybe she apparently she didn't really stop with her party girl lifestyle. So although I think he definitely would have had a better life with like a stable family, I still think that there's some like genetic components as well that he would still be fighting against. And it's just so devastating. It really, really is. Oh my God. Oh, YouTube Addicts has, I live in Vegas. I would take our internet nephew in. So sweet. And that's the thing that is so crazy, is how many of us are perfect strangers, yet we have so much more love and compassion and empathy for this child than his own mother has. You know, I am still so shook about the fact that, you know, remember what she did when David was accused of strangling him. The campaign she led on the internet to have us all believe that Jace is toxic, he's crazy, the family needs to be protected from him. Like, that is the type of damage that can never be undone. Truly, 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 right? And Ramster, you have to have a diploma for everything, but any idiot can get pregnant. Jasmine says, that's heartbreaking. I hope Jace gets real help as soon as possible. Same here. Jace deserves so much better. I really wish, you know, I wonder what there is, you know, for the average person to do to help Jace. You know, does Jace know that he is supported? Again, I don't look at the Teen Mom Kids as like social media. But I'm going to have to go and take a look and see, you know, are people being nice to him in the comments and maybe offering him support or something? Because I really do feel like so many viewers love and support him, you know? And so I would hope that that translates into him realizing that, you know, it's going to be okay one day. He only has, what, 2 more years or something like that with Jenelle before he can be on his own. I wonder if he could even get emancipated. All About Minnie says Jenelle is the worst mom to have been on the franchise because at least Amber lets her children be raised in stable environments. I agree with you, right? She's at least let them go and live with healthy, stable fathers. Keisha says, I will never forget how confused he was in the queue. Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. In the car when she gaslighted him and called him a liar when he was telling the truth about her pulling out that gun. Oh, God. Jenelle, you have done so much damage to that child. You really should be ashamed of yourself. How you even manage to sleep at night is beyond me. I don't even know what I would do if I had harmed anyone, you know, let alone my child to that extent. Tanya says that hurts my heart to know he was posting that. She moved him away from his home and any support he had. Pray for Jace, y'all. Pray for Jace. I'm so sad for him. He deserved so much better.